Hi team, I'm Chris, and this is Synth Studio. Now that I've finally got my Roland SP-404MKII, I can do this comparison video showing 6 different case options, including the Pulse case by Analog Cases. This is by far my most requested accessory video, so let's see what we're working with today. Before we get going, this video is not sponsored. I paid full price for all these products, but if you use one of the product links in the description to buy any of these cases, I may earn a small commission at no extra cost to you, so it's a simple way to support the channel. Now onto the cases. We're going to look at 6 cases in total, but it's worth mentioning there are only 3 cases on the market that I could find that are officially made for the Mark II. You'd think that such a popular device would generate a bigger aftermarket scene. But anyway, enough talk, let's dive in. The first bag we're going to be looking at is this electronic organizer by Bagsmart. I actually found this on a Reddit post, I'll link it up here. A fellow 404 owner had done a little bit of research and trial and error on bags and landed on this one. It does have a 2-layer design. The material reminds me a lot of the Peak Design bags. It does feel like it's got a nice water repellent coating. This one is the softest of the cases. You can see all the organization options in this kind of really flat panel. Thick compartment there, and then that flat top compartment is right there. This one runs $26 US. On the inside, you can see we've got another kind of larger pouch. This one comes with these dividers. They're just Velcro. The side panels, they do have padding, and the back has the same thing. So though it's not a hard case, it is pretty rigid. I think it will do a decent job of protecting your 404. Let's get into putting some stuff in there. Right off the bat, it's a little tight at the top and bottom. I would not call this too tight, it's just a little tight. It's kind of nice. I think of all the bags, it's the one that is going to be the most form-fitting. So this thing is not gonna be moving around inside there if it's in your bag. I wanted to show you guys the side profile to show you how much the knobs stick out. They do protrude a good ½ inch, but because there's so much going on the top, there's plenty of padding. It doesn't feel like the 404 is being squeezed, but it also doesn't feel like there's room for it to jostle around at all. Of all the ones we're gonna look at, I would say is the best fit. Even though it's not a hard case, to me it feels like it's got just enough protection, and it also is the smallest in terms of form factor of all the bags that we'll look at today in person. Of course, I can't speak for the CremaCaffè case or the padded pouch because I don't have those here with me. But of the 4 that we're looking at today, this is the smallest, and I would say by a pretty significant margin. Let's do some basic measurements. 8 7/8 inches, sorry, I'm in inches, everybody. 8 7/8 width and 11.5. And then the depth, maybe around that 3.5 inch mark. I kind of like that the handle is not padded because, as you'll see in some of the other bags, they can kind of stick out. Oh, I almost forgot. Let's put the power adapter, or at least attempt to put the power adapter inside. As you can see, I don't think about the power adapter a lot, so I've never used it. So personally, it's not something I care about when it comes to a bag. But if I was gonna put this power adapter somewhere, I probably, even though I think in terms of size, this pocket would be the best place for it, I wouldn't put it in there because I would think it's not enough padding between this and the top of the 404. So I would find a way to put it in here. Maybe, no, not right there at the top because that's where the knobs are. Maybe I would just set it right there. It's not gonna move around a lot. Yeah, look at that, perfectly fine. It's definitely not too tight. It's kind of a perfect little fit in there. I really like this setup. It's a little bit hard to beat even if you bring the power adapter with you. So that is the Bagsmart bag. Let's move on. The next bag we're gonna look at is the Pulse case by Analog Cases. I think of all the cases, this is perhaps the most expected or anticipated. and for good reason. Analog has such a fantastic reputation in the music production community. They do make great gear, and the Pulse case is no different. This is really fantastically made. It does feel high quality. It's got this velour lining on the inside, and then their signature little pouch thing. So let's go ahead and put the 404 inside and see how the fitment is. Uh-oh, look at all this extra space. That's no good. It's gonna be sliding around all over the place. But what if we put the 404 adapter in? So that kind of takes up that vertical space, but I don't know if I like the plastic rubbing on the plastic. And then you still have, you know, a finger's width on either side. I'd love for that to just be closed up. Like, why can't it just fit perfectly? I thought these were model-specific designs. So that's just me. I personally will not be keeping the Analog Pulse case because of that, and I just don't need all the extra storage. I mean, quality-wise, just feels so good. This feels like really robust material. It's also very rigid. It does look like there's a little nick in my zipper. It's a bummer. This is nice too. I do like that they have given it a little extra material, so it's just easier to, you know, grab. I also really like the rubber zipper pulls and that it's just one pull. I kind of love how it's just one big compartment. That's the one thing I didn't like so much about the Bagsmart. Just having just the one is really nice. It looks really nice. It's just a really sleek case and just feels like, man, this is just going to be really protective if it wasn't bouncing around inside of the case. I can feel it jostling just as I turn the case. It's sliding up and down inside there. It's a little bit of a shame. I would not be surprised if Analog came out with a SP-404 Mark II only case, because I know that on the listing it shows that it also fits the 404A. As we know, the earlier SP models are shorter. So let's do some measurements. 12 3/4 inches, 8 1/8. It's about 3 inches. So that is the Analog Pulse case. You know, I think we were all expecting a little bit of a better fit. For me, it's a bummer. I was really wanting this case to work and be the one that I was gonna keep. You know, not everybody's like me, but as a person who never uses the power adapter, you know, I just don't need all this extra space. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't know, kind of a bummer. All right, I guess it's time to move on. The next case, this is a little bit of a wild card here. This is the Raiace hard storage case. This is one of those weird cases where I was just digging on Amazon trying to find trends of what types of cases are roughly the right dimension that would fit the 404. And that's how I found this one. So this thing comes with this little tray, kind of Velcroed right there. It is just that hook and loop stuff. So let's put the SP in there. There definitely is a bit of extra room, but it's not as much extra space as the Analog Pulse case. But there is an issue with this case, and this is where potential modifications come in. I haven't decided yet whether or not I'm gonna be doing this to my Raiace case. It has this panel. These would be nice for just holding little stuff. They do feel like they'd be secure enough. The problem is the knobs stick out pretty significantly. That's what I'm talking about. The obvious solution is to just trim this panel across there and just take out that little rectangle of material so that it would just sit flat right there, cover and protect all this stuff, while the buttons are allowed to have that extra space of this extra depth going on here. I think if the fit was slightly better here around the edges, I probably would not be questioning whether or not I should mod this case. It's definitely serviceable, like it's usable. I would recommend this case for sure. As long as you don't mind just making that cut, I think it would actually be a fantastic case, especially if you are really stuck on having a hard shell case. I mean, I would say it's like 90% as hard and quality as the Analog Pulse case. This one comes in at $33, but let's see if there's a place for us to fit this adapter. Maybe it can just, oh no. So this is again where this panel comes in really nice, because you have most of the face of the 404 protected while you have things like an adapter in a pocket. So it really would have to go into this zippered pocket, which I think, you know, I think that would be okay. This is what happens when you don't cut that panel. That's as far as it will go, and I'm kind of squeezing it. You know, with that panel cut, I think this could be a really good fit. Maybe I'll just do it. I don't know. We'll see how I feel before the end of the video. That is the Raiace case. It's definitely, I think, a really interesting option. I think if you really wanted the analog pulse case, you should get this one instead. So I think that's it for the Raiace. I don't remember whether or not I did dimensions. So let's do dimensions now. Oh my gosh, you know what I just realized? If you're gonna get this case, you're going to be modding it. But what just occurred to me is if you're cutting that already to fit the knobs, then you could leave this panel in and maybe just like cut it right down the middle, like in half this way, and put one at the top and one at the bottom. That would probably take up most of that extra space. Oh gosh, are we gonna have to do this? Shoot. Okay, let's just do this. First, this thing. Let me get that out of the way. Let's cut this thing in half. Why not? I don't know what this is made out of, but I've got some serious scissors here. Oof, there we go. I don't normally do my experimentations on camera. I do get that a lot. People going, what are you doing? Yeah, this is what I'm doing. We're almost there. Ooh, there we go. Cleaner than I expected. How exciting. Okay, one at the top, one at the bottom. Moment of truth. It feels like now if it is gonna wiggle, there's twice as much padding on the corners. Let's go ahead and cut the other part I'm cutting into one of these. There it goes. Okay, now that we have mangled this thing, it might just be, oh wait, I'm still feeling that knob. Let's just do that little notch. I forgot about that. So we need to go into this pocket. Normally I am a little bit more measured with my mods, believe it or not. Okay, got a little cutout. Beautiful. Button fits perfectly. Let's see if it closes. Ooh, I can tell it is a little tight on those knobs, but I think it's just the mesh bit. It's not actually the hard part of the case. Let's try and zip it up. This might be the one. I can feel the knobs. They're not like poking through because this is too rigid, but I can feel that like I can't push in right here. I would definitely be comfortable chucking it into my luggage. Actually, let's throw that power adapter in. Okay. Ooh, uh-oh. Okay, folks. The power adapter is not gonna fit. So if you use the power adapter a lot, this is not the case for you. But if you're like me and you never use the power adapter, this might be the perfect case. I gotta say, I'm impressed. After the mod, I'm glad I did that. Let's take some quick measurements and then we'll move on. 8 3/4, 12 3/4, 3 1/8. Nice and compact, nice carry handle. Dang, that is the Raiace hard storage case for the Apple Mac Mini M1 or at the SP-404 onward. This is the Thule Legend. This is a GoPro case. I was interested in this because I have used Thule products, cases like this one for many, many years now. I've always been really impressed with their design and build quality. So on the exterior, you can see the material is this rubbery, textured, molded sort of material. It is rigid. It's definitely a hard case. Thule always has got these nice little design features like this unique zipper pull, this unique handle. I don't really like that personally. It doesn't swivel or collapse. This bag is small enough to just grab it with your hand. It does have these nice like ridges here that you can grab onto. It does have 2 zips. They're a little, you know, the zipper is a chunky one. So let's open it up and have a look at what's inside. Oh, that's weird. Trying to open that zipper all the way, but then the strap's in the way. Like, weird. Okay. Oh, what? I would not have bought this case, except let me show you the listing of why I did. Because right on the main photo, it shows that this insert is just removable. And if you look close, you can see in this insert, it already is pre-scored. It's not just cubes, but it's got a few areas where it can be scored and cut out, probably for different size GoPros and stuff. It'd be easy to just cut out all the middle stuff and just set a 404 on the inside. So that's what I was thinking. working. You can see those rivets really poking there on the inside. Man, I just wish they wouldn't have done those rivets. There's a couple zips, both completely enclosed pouches, and it's this waterproof kind of Ziploc bag mesh type material. I don't love it, I don't hate it. Let's see here how the 404 fits. Compared to the other cases, there's just a gobs of space. You would not use it like this. That would not make sense. What you would consider is putting that insert back in there and then, potentially cutting out all the middle stuff so that the 404 can just fit inside there. And it does look like the foam is designed to be cut. So it's not as crazy as you might expect from me. Let's look at the bottom here. There is space, but what you could do is cut inward. I'm not going to be modifying this case, but you could do that. And I think that if you were to modify this foam in order to fit the 404, I suspect that it might turn this case into the most protective case on my list. Because of the design of these pockets and the fact that there's volume in this top panel, the whole top panel itself is kind of a cushion of air. If you really wanted, you could put foam or something inside of here. That's not really what I need personally, but if you are traveling a lot, I would think that this is probably your best bet in terms of just keeping it as protected as it can be with off-the-shelf products. We can't really try to put the 404 in here because I'm not going to cut this foam out. I am going to close this up and give you some quick measurements here. This is 14 inches dead on. It's about 9 1/4, 3 1/4. If you are just looking for the most protection, short of buying a metal case and cutting out foam blocks to get an exact fit, which Analog also sells, this Thule Legend is going to be the most protective option. That assumes you're willing to have a little bit chunkier size and also cut out the foam. But if you do that, I think you'll end up with the most protective case. I think that's kind of it for the Thule Legend. Before we jump ahead, I wanted to give you guys a quick look at the two CremaCaffè cases that I don't have today. This one is the Opus. I think it's worth taking a look at these, partially because I feel like CremaCaffè have earned their right to have a spot on this list. Like I said, they don't really suit my needs, or they're a little too expensive for my taste. But I do want to give them a quick look so that you guys are aware of all the options that are available to you. What we're looking at here is the Opus case. It only came out a couple months ago in typical CremaCaffè style. This is laser etched. Some sort of laminated wood. They call the material timber. It's both a case and a stand. As you can see here, this is its open state. It's got this sort of stopper at the bottom. It's tilted, they say 15 degrees, which is a great angle. So I think it's a great idea. They're obviously very good at designing these things using this particular material. For me, it was a little bit the material that put me off though. I personally have never used any of their products, but they have an incredibly good reputation. Let's look through some of these photos. It says case plus stand. And again, I just want to highlight 175 euros. To me, this feels frankly pretty absurd. Some people will be willing to pay this, and I think that's great. It's like, if you're gonna spend a bunch of money, give it to a company like CremaCaffè, please. For me, it just doesn't suit my needs, and even if it did at this price point, it's not something that I could justify spending. So let's talk about some of the design details here. There probably is an SP-404 inside this case. You can see the knobs. They have these little cutouts for the knobs, and presumably this is the value knob here. And then they put these, elastic fabric bands around to keep it all shut. That's really nice. They've got all these notches cut out around the outside, presumably to slot everything perfectly in its place. I'd personally be concerned about my 404 just basically having no shock protection in this case. Yeah, it's covered, but it's covered by something that could scratch it. So to me, it's like, why would you do that? Even just lining the wood with something softer that wouldn't scratch the 404. But again, you're not gonna get any significant shock protection with this case. If you end up dropping this case, that's just gonna transfer all of that force directly to the 404. which I think is a huge problem. Let's look at some more of these photos. Now this looks like he's lifting the top part of the case off of the stand thing, and then I think this bottom panel is what then gets put back onto the top. Such a good idea. A little bit of a back view. Here's a nice shot showing how the value knobs stick through, and this is a part of the design that I didn't fully understand. They say inside the case you'll find a dust cover made of repurposed film to keep your device spotless. Is this just sitting inside there? Like, do I have to remove this film every time I open the case and want to use the device? I do like that they put a couple different elastic band options. They're both awesome. I like that there is a version with the weird octopus style design, which is super cool. It is more expensive to choose the octopus, and it's another 20 euros. You know, kudos to CremaCaffè for putting this together. I really wish you guys had found a way to make this more affordable. I mean, it's 135 euros more expensive. It's like a factor of 5 more expensive than any other case on this list, 4 or 5. That just seems crazy to me. Okay, I think I've ranted about this a little bit, enough. Let's go over to the padded pouch. It does look like this is, a quote-unquote official collaboration with Roland, which I think is so cool. It comes in 2 colors, which they call orange and beige. It's just these 2 styles here. I know that they do have an extra slot here, as you can see, a little pocket on the inside, so that you can store one of the stands that CremaCaffè makes. But again, I think if you are kind of a fair weather user, maybe this would be a cool fit, especially if you use this extra stand. This, I think, is a really helpful photo because it gives you relative view of the 404 to the pouch. I'm sure when the 404 is inside the pouch, it doesn't look like the footprint's that big because it'll stretch out a bit, but I think it's worth pointing out that it's, relatively large. Obviously, it's not a hard case. You're gonna get the protection that comes along with having a soft pouch. They have a zipper closure. For me, I don't know, I'm not wild about these illustrations, but it's cooler than just nothing. I do like the idea of these pouches. At 45 euros, they're not cheap. They're still more expensive than any other case that's on this list. They don't offer as much protection as any of the other cases that we've looked at. So I can't recommend these. I do, however, want to take a moment to celebrate CremaCaffè. Companies like CremaCaffè, who have inserted themselves into our community. They're a privately owned company. They're small and they're making cool stuff. Companies like this are what make our community so interesting. Just really appreciate what they do. If you do like these products and you can afford them, go support CremaCaffè. Show your support. We love you guys. We have to talk about the analog case and the Raiace case side by side because these are such similar cases. They have the same construction with an all-around zipper with a handle at the top. The analog case is about 1 inch longer. The analog case does feel higher quality, but marginally. But then I think the story changes when you get into the insides of these cases. These floppy pouches that analog does inside their cases just aren't very functional. They've got this big window for things to escape from. This is not a great design. Whereas I think with the Raiace case, there's a lot of thoughtful storage, and then you have a secure pocket that you can zip shut. Once it's modded, it's just hard to beat this combination of hard case, pretty compact protection. I can't recommend the Pulse case. It's like, if we're gonna be sold purpose, model specific cases, we need them to be actually model specific. So otherwise we find better things that we can hack for cheaper. But it's not that we don't want this analog, we want this, but we really just need it to fit the 404 properly. For me, easily, hands down, the best combination of protection and portability is going to be this Raiace case, as long as, again, you're willing to do these basic modifications. And also, as long as you don't use the adapter, because it will not fit in this case. And lastly, let's talk about the Bagsmart case. If you're someone who, like me, you often leave the house and you don't want to take anything but what you need to make music, this is the perfect case for that. You get a decent amount of protection, lots of really thoughtful storage. Man, just really hard to beat this case. For most people, this is probably the case to get. 0 modifications required, happens to be the cheapest on our list. So it's kind of a win-win-win. But if a soft case is not your deal, then go for the Raiace. If you want something super crazy protective, get the Thule gauntlet and modify them. That's it for today. If this kind of content is interesting to you, be sure to click the thumbs up on this video down below and subscribe to get notified when I post new videos like this one. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys next time.